Good. No, not a good evening, Bulldog fans. About as bad an evening as it could have been here on the Plains. I guess the only way to make it worse would have been serious injuries, so let's get to that quickly. Martinez Rankin, it looks like he'll come out okay after going, I think you said he got rolled up from behind on a play and missed the whole second half.
Yeah, it's a high ankle sprain. It's the for fans that want to go back and see, it's when they had the hands to the face. And as the player fell back, they rolled into to Martinez. He tried to give it a go, one more snap, asked to come out, went to the locker room with the MSU medical staff, but on his own power, saw him in post-game in a boot, but we're told it's just a precaution. It's going to be a high ankle sprain, but the bye week comes at a good time.
And the irony being that was the only penalty assessed on Auburn tonight, which is not a knock on the officials. Though in the early parts of the game we could have knocked them, there was some really bad calls or non-calls made. Probably the most devastating being the early whistle on the sack strip and would have been a score for Montez Sweat. Now, we will never know how that might have impacted the game. Maybe it would have made the final 49-17 or something like that. The point being, as Dan Mullen said, as Nick Fitzgerald said, about everything Mississippi State could have done wrong, they did wrong, more of it to themselves than what Auburn did to them, as odd as it's going to sound to some people.
David, and we hate to beat the Bulldogs up. Auburn's done enough of that tonight. 7 pre-snap penalties on the offense.
They were backing up even before they were backing
Absolutely. Half a dozen drops by receivers. Fitzgerald forced a couple balls in there, but Nick's numbers are going to look terrible. But Nick competed, and I thought Nick came out there and gave his best effort. He didn't have a strong supporting cast.
No.
There were a couple times that he made some really solid throws, and the catch just simply wasn't made. But to give Auburn credit, Auburn came in here and did what they're supposed to do. They didn't do a lot of things flashy, but they did catch State with a couple of gadget plays, and I thought State's safety play was absolutely atrocious tonight. That's one of the things that's carried over for 2 consecutive weeks, so hopefully Coach Ron English can get that squared away in the bye week.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute there. I thought early in the game Mississippi State maybe should have tried to force the running game a little bit more. It could not have been any worse than it was with 3 and outs in that regard with the missed passes, but they got away a little from their identity. Auburn took an advantage. State started forcing a few things. As you said, Nick forced some passes, but let's give him credit too. 13 of 33 is going to look like a terrible stat line. He was a warrior tonight. Yeah. He took shots. He knew he was going to take shots. He still stood in, delivered balls, and there were some atrocious drop balls that the receivers had to go back and apologize for. And the play he did score the touchdown on, he hung in there, went one way. He knew he was going to go down from behind, still delivered the ball to Justin Johnson. So he showed that when he had a little bit of time to throw. But also when he wasn't getting stuck in +5 situations by the pre-snap penalties, when the offensive line wasn't just on roller skates all evening like that. The offense just – it's like Fitzgerald said, and people are going to have a hard time believing this. Fitzgerald said they had a good week of practice, they had a good game plan, good scouting report, and he said we were just terrible at everything, just terrible.
Yeah, and as did Dan Mullen. I mean, and there's no way you can come out of this ball game feeling good except for the fact that you survived the month of September with a winning record. Had State come out of this with 2 and 3, it'd been a disaster.
Especially given what happened just now in Baton Rouge.
Absolutely, with them, LSU, my goodness, as bad as Mississippi State fans feel tonight, you're probably thinking at least we're not LSU. And at least we beat LSU, because there have been many times in the past where LSU has had mediocre teams and State hadn't taken advantage. So not trying to sugarcoat this by any means. It's 2 very frustrating losses because a lot of people expected this team to be a little bit better. Even though we're thinking 7-5, 8-4 most of the year, I still think this is an 8-4 team. This is one of the games that was really a toss-up between a great season and a good season. Now State will end the month of October with 3 winnable home games.
Getting back to the bad, you mentioned the safety play, which has been bad 2 weeks in a row. Tonight was even worse, if anything, than the Georgia game. And the cornerbacks didn't exactly cover themselves in glory either. But a lot of that, too, we knew the secondary would be a weak point. That has to be taken care of by the defensive line as much as is practical. And they just weren't able to get a lot of push because Auburn was able to max protect. Sometimes just minimum protect was good enough against a 3 or 4 man front because State was still so worried about having to guard against the run game. They couldn't get the pressure. And give Stidham credit, he only incompleted 3 passes. I think in 3 games now, he's only missed on 10 balls. The Baylor transfer is showing why he was such a coveted guy to pick up.
Very efficient, makes good decisions. And, yeah, there's some balls he kind of sailed out there that, with good coverage probably get batted down. But he's managing their offense. He's given them that vertical passing threat. And, I thought tonight really State tried a couple passes. Jamal Couch, I thought, went up and competed well. Perhaps maybe he's beginning to step up, and the Bulldogs will certainly need him to because there doesn't seem to be a real strong cast of characters looking to make plays down the field. So, but back to Jared Stidham, he was as advertised. The Auburn offense benefits from having a guy like him that can kind of stretch the field and open up some pass lanes for those run lanes for those running backs.
So to quickly summarize what State's done the last 2 weeks, they've played the team that should win the Eastern Division. They played a team that can win the Western Division, believe it or not, if they play like they did tonight. But the Bulldogs can't worry about it now. They have to worry about themselves. They get an open date. Then they face, let's be honest, 3 teams against which if they come in with the game plan they say they have, if they come in with the personnel they think they have, and execute, they could go through October in really good shape.
There's no question, David. This is where State has to get fat. This is where State has to pad the bowl resume by protecting the home turf and winning these next 3 games. I mean, that's as bluntly as we can say it. This is behind us now. It's focused on October and this bye week and getting prepared for a stretch that State should be favored to win these ball games.
And for everyone I had a Twitter fight with tonight, hey, I don't take it personal. Temper's running high on all the issues out there. And like we said, it could be worse. You couldn't be in Baton Rouge tonight. But that doesn't make us feel any better at the moment. Mississippi State will go into this open date now 3-2, 1-2 in the Southeastern Conference, have a chance to get some guys healthy, have a chance to really, as Coach Mullen said, refocus on what they've done wrong, what they are doing well, what they think they can do well and do better at this point, and just figure out really who they are, because now they've got 5 games of tape to really analyze against a wide variety of defenses and offenses. If they can't come out of this with a better idea when they start the Brigham Young, Kentucky A&M stretch, then you might have something to worry. At this point, I'm not particularly worried. I think State will do well on that. Steve, for all those that I was fighting with on Twitter, just give us some, not sugarcoat, but point to them again that, as we say, this team is not even halfway through the season. There are positives ahead. There are now clearly negatives to be worked on.
Well, David, we all want the same things, and we all have those moments where we just feel like we should be a little bit better perhaps than we are. And I think winning the LSU ball game, at the time we felt that was a big win. I always felt LSU was a little bit overrated, but I never thought they'd lose to Troy and struggle with Syracuse. And so the quality of that win is dialed back, but yet it's still a win, and it still counts towards bowl eligibility. Now it's just a matter of putting this behind us and focusing on a month where the Bulldogs have to play better and should play better.
So, from Jordan-Hare Stadium in Auburn, Alabama, for Steve Robertson, for Mike Nemeth, Gene Swindoll back in Starkville, this is David Murray, and we go into open date. Game story to file. Steve has interviews with Nick Fitzgerald, Jeffrey Simmons, and, of course, Dan Mullen. He'll be posting up shortly. Those videos will be there. I should have my game story, hopefully by midnight, so I can make the run back there. And hopefully, once again, after all these years, manage to run that gauntlet of reform and go without getting another ticket. So, we'll try. We'll be talking to you on next week. We don't have a formal press conference. Dan Mullen, Mississippi State will have press availabilities on Tuesday and Wednesday with the Bulldogs to kind of get an idea of what they're working on the open date. And, of course, basketball practice is underway. We showed the video of Ben Howland. We had our talk with Vic Schaefer post there. Chance to go check that out, maybe feel a little better about a couple of sports at this moment. But hang in there, Dog fans. Oh, yes, by the way, October 9th, fall baseball starts Mississippi State. So, again, for Steve, this is David.